They say your first million is the hardest, but what they don't tell you is just how dramatically the game changes once you reach it. Most people think millionaires are just people who save more money, but that's not the whole story. The truth is, your first million might take you 20, 30, even 40 years to accumulate, but your second million, that often happens in just 3 to 5 years, and your third, sometimes in just 18 months. This isn't about getting lucky. It's not about inheritance or winning the lottery. It's about understanding something most people never learn. Wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows in waves. And once you catch the first wave, riding the next ones becomes almost inevitable. So why does your second million come so much faster than your first? Let's break down the math, the psychology, and the systems that make millionaires multiply their wealth at speeds that seem almost impossible to everyone else. The Millionaire's Paradox. Here's something that will blow your mind. The average American takes about 32 years to accumulate their first $1 million. But for those who actually reach that milestone, the second million typically arrives in just 3 to 7 years. Why the massive difference? It's not because they suddenly started earning more money. In fact, many millionaires continue living on roughly the same income they had before. The difference is in what happens to money when it reaches critical mass. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to heat up a small pot of water with a single match. It barely makes a difference. But once that water is already hot, adding another match creates steam. The energy compounds on itself. Your first million is like heating that water from room temperature. Every dollar you save feels like it disappears into an ocean of expenses. You save $1,000 and it feels insignificant. You save $10,000 and you're proud, but you're still nowhere near your goal. Even at $500,000, you're only halfway there, and the finish line feels just as distant as it did at zero. But something magical happens once you cross 7 figures. Suddenly, your money starts earning more money than most people make at their jobs. A modest 7% return on $1 million is $70,000 per year. That's more than the median American household income, and it comes from doing absolutely nothing. The 3 accelerators. So what exactly changes once you hit that first million? There are 3 accelerators that kick in, and understanding them is the key to understanding why wealth building becomes exponentially easier. Accelerator number 1, the compound engine goes nuclear. Before your first million, compound interest feels like a nice theory. You read about Einstein calling it the 8th wonder of the world, but in practice it feels more like the 8th wonder of boredom. A 10% return on $10,000 is $1,000. Nice, but not life-changing. A 10% return on $100,000 is $10,000. Better, but still not enough to quit your day job. But a 10% return on $1 million? That's $100,000 in 1 year. While you sleep, that's enough to live on in most parts of America. And here's where it gets crazy. If you reinvest that $100,000, next year you're earning 10% on $1,100,000. The year after that, $121,000. Your money isn't just growing anymore, it's multiplying. And it's multiplying faster than you can spend it, which means your wealth starts accelerating without any additional input from you. Accelerator number 2, access to the big leagues. Here's something they don't teach you in school. The investment world has different rules for different people. When you have $5,000 to invest, your options are basically limited to basic index funds, maybe a few individual stocks, and if you're lucky, a high-yield savings account. But when you have $1 million, doors start opening. Private equity deals, hedge funds, real estate syndications, angel investing opportunities, business acquisitions. These investments often have minimum buy-ins of $100,000, $250,000 or more. They're designed for people who already have serious money. And here's the kicker. These exclusive investments often have much higher returns than what's available to regular investors. While the S&P 500 might give you 8 to 10% annually, a good real estate syndication might return 15 to 20%. A successful private equity deal might return 25 to 30% or more. The rich literally have access to better investments than everyone else, and once you join their ranks, you get access too. Accelerator number 3, the psychology flip. But perhaps the most powerful accelerator is psychological. Something fundamental changes in your brain when you see 7 figures in your account. You stop thinking like someone who needs money, and you start thinking like someone who has money. When you're building your first million, every spending decision feels like a trade-off. Buy the expensive coffee, and you're delaying your goals. Take a vacation, and you're stealing from your future self. Upgrade your car, and you're choosing comfort over wealth. But once you're a millionaire, those trade-offs largely disappear. Not because you start spending recklessly, but because your money is growing faster than you can reasonably spend it. A $5,000 vacation? Your investments probably earned that much in the last 2 weeks. A $50,000 car upgrade? Your portfolio gained that much last month during a good market week. This psychological freedom allows you to make different decisions. You can take bigger risks because you have a bigger safety net. You can invest more aggressively because you can afford to lose some and still be fine. You can pursue opportunities that might not pay off for years because you're not desperate for immediate returns. The millionaire's mindset shift. Let me tell you about a study that reveals something fascinating about millionaires. Researchers followed 10,000 high-income professionals for 20 years. They wanted to understand why some became millionaires and others, despite earning similar incomes, never built significant wealth. What they found was surprising. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't income level. It wasn't even how much they saved. The biggest predictor of who became a millionaire was something much more subtle: how they thought about money. The future millionaires had what researchers called investor mindset from early on. They didn't see money as something to spend or even something to save. They saw it as a tool to acquire assets that would generate more money. When they got a bonus, they didn't think, "What can I buy?" They thought, "What can I buy that will pay me back?" When they had extra cash, they didn't put it in savings account earning 1%. They put it into index funds, real estate, or businesses that could grow. But here's the really interesting part. This mindset became much stronger and more sophisticated once they hit their first million. Suddenly, they started seeing opportunities everywhere. They began networking with other investors. They learned about tax strategies that saved them tens of thousands per year. They discovered investment vehicles they never knew existed. The first million didn't just give them more money, it gave them access to knowledge, networks, and opportunities that accelerated everything that came after. The math behind the magic. Let's get specific about the numbers, because this is where the real magic happens. Imagine 2 people, Sarah and Tom. Both are 35 years old, both earn $100,000 per year, both save $20,000 annually. Sarah reaches her first million at age 50. It took her 15 years of disciplined saving and investing. Now here's where it gets interesting. Sarah doesn't change her lifestyle at all. She keeps living on $80,000 per year and keeps saving $20,000 annually. But now her $1 million is working alongside her. At a 7% annual return, her million grows to $1,070,000 by the end of year 1. Add her $20,000 in new savings, and she's at $1,090,000. Year 2, that grows to $1,166,300 plus another $20,000 in savings. She's at $1,186,300. Here's the key insight. In year 1, her investments earned her $70,000. That's already more than half of her annual salary. By year 5, her investments are earning her over $100,000 annually, more than her entire salary. Her money is literally out-earning her. Meanwhile, Tom is still grinding toward his first million. He's at $800,000 after 12 years of saving. His investments earn him about $56,000 per year. Still substantial, but not yet at the tipping point where his money works harder than he does. This is why Sarah's second million comes so much faster. Her first million took 15 years. Her second million takes just 6 more years. And if she wanted to reach 3 million, that would take just 4 additional years after that. The wealth multiplication matrix. Once you understand this pattern, you start to see wealth differently. It's not linear, it's exponential. And there's actually a predictable pattern to how wealth multiplies once you reach certain thresholds. Here's what I call the wealth multiplication matrix. $0 to $100,000, the grind phase. This takes most people 5 to 10 years. Every dollar is a struggle. You're building habits, learning discipline, and fighting against lifestyle inflation. Progress feels slow because it is slow. $100,000 to $500,000. The momentum phase. This typically takes 7 to 12 years. Compound interest starts to feel real. You begin to see meaningful gains from your investments. You develop more sophisticated strategies. $500,000 to $1 million. The acceleration phase. This usually takes 3 to 7 years. Your money is now earning significant returns. You have access to better investment opportunities. You start thinking strategically about taxes and asset protection. $1 million to $2 million. The multiplication phase. This often takes just 3 to 5 years. Your investments are earning more than most people's salaries. You have access to exclusive opportunities. Wealth starts feeling automatic. $2 million to $5 million. The amplification phase. This typically takes 5 to 8 years, but the psychological experience is completely different. You're no longer building wealth, you're managing it. The question isn't, can I afford this? But, is this the best use of capital? $5 million plus. The legacy phase. At this point, wealth becomes self-sustaining. You're earning more from investments than most people earn from work. You start thinking about generational wealth and impact beyond yourself. The 3 traps that stop people now. Before you get too excited, let me tell you about the 3 traps that prevent most people from ever reaching that first critical million, and why understanding these traps is essential to avoiding them. Trap number 1, the lifestyle inflation snare. This is the big one. As people earn more money, they convince themselves they deserve to spend more money. The lawyer making $200,000 somehow feels broke because they need the $80,000 car, the $5,000 a month apartment, the $200 dinners. Here's the brutal truth. Your income doesn't determine your wealth. Your savings rate determines your wealth. A teacher saving 30% of a $50,000 salary will become wealthier than a lawyer saving 5% of a $200,000 salary. The math is unforgiving. Trap number 2, the get-rich-quick detour. The second trap is the siren song of shortcuts. People see the exponential growth that happens after the first million, and they want to skip straight to that part. So they chase cryptocurrency moonshots, penny stocks, or get-rich-quick schemes. Here's what they don't understand. The discipline required to build your first million is the same discipline required to manage subsequent millions. The people who shortcut their way to wealth usually shortcut their way back out of it just as quickly. Trap number 3, the perfection paralysis. The third trap is waiting for the perfect time, the perfect investment, the perfect strategy. They research for months, analyze every possible scenario, and never actually start investing. Meanwhile, someone else starts with an imperfect plan and begins building wealth immediately. Time in the market beats timing the market, and perfect planning beats perfect plans every single time. Your millionaire action plan. So how do you actually get started? How do you position yourself to experience this wealth multiplication effect? First, accept that your first million will be hard. It should be hard. The difficulty is what builds the habits and mindset you'll need to manage larger amounts of wealth later. Second, focus on your savings rate, not your returns. A 25% savings rate with average returns will make you wealthy. A 5% savings rate with amazing returns will keep you broke. Third, automate everything. Set up systems that move money from your paycheck to investments before you have a chance to spend it. Pay your future self first, then live on what's left. Fourth, invest consistently in low-cost index funds until you have enough capital to access more sophisticated investments. Don't try to get fancy until you have at least $100,000 to work with. Fifth, learn constantly. Read books about investing, taxes, and wealth building. Listen to podcasts. Find mentors who have achieved what you want to achieve. And finally, be patient with the process, but urgent with your actions. Your first million might take 10, 15, or even 20 years. But if you start today and stay consistent, that first million is virtually guaranteed. And once you have it, The second million becomes not just possible, but probable. The truth is, most people never become millionaires not because they can't, but because they quit before the compound interest curve starts to bend upward. They give up in year 3, or year 7, or year 12, right before everything changes. Don't be most people. Start today, stay consistent, and prepare to be amazed at how quickly your second million arrives once your first million starts working for you. If this video helped you understand the path to wealth multiplication, like and subscribe for more insights into how money really works for the wealthy. And tell us in the comments, what's your biggest obstacle to reaching your first million? Let's solve it together. Remember, your first million is the hardest because it's teaching you everything you need to know to earn the next 10 million.